Why we believe the Bible. So much from what we practice here at the South Edmonton Church of Christ, it has to do with what we read in the Bible. So I think that this video is very important for us to take a look at why do we believe the Bible? What is the Bible and why is it important for our life? Let's take a look at some of these things together. For starters, why is the Bible important? Well, in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 16 through 17, we read, "All scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness, so that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work." This passage that Paul wrote in the New Testament tells us a little bit about the importance of what the Bible is and also how to use it. We do see that it comes from God. It's God-breathed. It's God. That's what we mean whenever we say that it's inspired, is that it is God-breathed. And we see that there are ways in which we can use it. We can use it to teach people, to rebuke people, correct people, and to train people. All of these things within righteousness. And by the way, sometimes the people that we are teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training, sometimes those people are ourselves. We are the ones. The reason behind that shows up in verse 17. The reason is that we as servants of God, so that we can be equipped, not just somewhat equipped, but thoroughly equipped for every single good work that we might find ourselves wanting to do or able to do. The scriptures gives us guidance on those things. That doesn't necessarily mean that the scriptures answer all of our questions. It just means that it gives us guidance so that we are equipped to have the answers that we do need. So what is the Bible? I believe a very good way to answer that question is by looking at Exodus 17:14. This is the very first time that the writing of the Bible is actually mentioned within the Bible. We read this. "Then the Lord said to Moses, Write this on a scroll as something to be remembered, and make sure that Joshua hears it, because I will completely blot out the name of Amalek from under heaven." Now, the occasion of this writing was this story that I would encourage you to go back and read it in Exodus 17, but it's this story that the people of God were battling against the Amalekites. And here, this is that occasion whenever Moses raised up his hands, and as long as his hands would be raised up, they were winning the battle. But then whenever he would lower his hands, they would start to lose the battle. And then what we see is his hands were actually propped up, and eventually what happened is they did win, and they continued to be faithful to God throughout that time of that battle. Well, right after that, the Lord tells Moses to write these things on a scroll. Why was he supposed to write it down? He was writing it down so that they would remember it, so that they have that accurate record of what took place, and so that future generations would know those things and be able to read about them and learn from them. That's a large part of what the Bible is. It's this accurate description of these accounts of men and women of faith, of days gone past already, that we can learn from them, and we can see ways in which we can continue on this story of God even today. There's also other reasons why the Bible was written, though. In Exodus chapter 24, a few chapters later, what we see here is something here in verses 3 and 4. Let's just read those together and then I'll comment on them. "When Moses went and told the people all the Lord's words and laws, they responded with one voice, 'Everything the Lord has said, we will do.' Moses then wrote down everything the Lord had said." And of course, there's more to this occasion, but here what we see is it's not just that there's a record so that we have an account of what took place. No, this is more than that. This gets into the realm of it's a covenant relationship. In fact, all this here in Exodus, at these chapters around this in the book of Exodus, it is talking about this covenant relationship that God is wanting to enter in with his people. And Moses is told to write down these things. So as part of this covenant relationship, these are the things that the children of God are supposed to be doing in order to be faithful to their end of the bargain. They said at this moment, "Everything the Lord has said, we will do." Now, we know the rest of the story, and we know sadly they didn't always do that, but let's face it, sadly we don't always do everything that the Lord has asked us either. However, the Bible is there to remind us of what we have agreed and what has been agreed and what is kind of requested of us, what is really required of us. The scriptures records those things and shares those with us for future generations as well. There's one more passage in the Bible that I want us to take a look at that sheds a lot of light on what the Bible is. In the New Testament this time, the way that Luke begins his gospel, he tells us why he wrote it in the first place, why he wanted to deliver this account about Jesus to us. This is what Luke says. Luke 1, verses 1 through 4. Many have undertaken to draw up an account of the things that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us by those who from the first were eyewitnesses and servants of the word. With this in mind, since I myself have carefully investigated everything from the beginning, I too decided to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may know the certainty of the things you have been taught. So what Luke records here is he tells us, yes, the purpose is to record this story, to accurately hand it down, but then also for us as readers, speaking and seeing this through the eyes of Theophilus, who the letter of Luke was addressed to. It's so that we may know the certainty of the things that we have been taught. This is not everything that the Bible serves us for, but yet it's several of the things that the Bible does serve us for, and what it is, and why it exists, and also why we should read it.